Started here. Okay, you'll want to go to the plan section when you're logged into the program, and this is where you'll complete and submit your pages. But before we do that, we need to go in and do some final checks and kind of pre-flight to make sure the pages are like we want them. So I'm going to go to page 26, and I just have 6 pages here that I'm ready to complete, just to kind of give you guys an example of what to look for. So I float all my kids on these pages, and I've typed my headings and things, and I want to do spell check just to make sure everything's okay. So over here in the bottom right hand corner are these 2 little dots, and if you click on the one with the lines, this is your pre-flight panel or comment section, and you may have been using this along while you were creating your pages. You can leave comments here for other people to look at and maybe to remind yourself of some final things that you need to take care of. But you'll want to click on the triangle with the exclamation point. And this is what we call the pre-flight panel. And this is going to show us what if we have any things that we need to take care of before we can actually complete and submit the pages. We can also look at a proof here. So I'm going to run spell check, and it's similar to any of the like Microsoft Word and things like that. It caught that I spelt first incorrectly, so you can choose which way you want to spell it. Maybe it's a different word, but as long as this says change to and the word is correct here, you can click change. And then it missed graders. It chose graders. Well, that's not in my list, but I'm going to go ahead and correct that. And change. Now you can click on the box and go ahead and change it there if you'd like. Just going to run spell check again. And it hasn't picked up anything. It says no spelling suggestions. So I'm going to exit out of that little box. And then I'm going to go ahead and So I'm going to go ahead and click on page 27 here. Here's the page number. I don't have any other errors on page 26, but on page 27, it looks like I have 1. So if you'll notice, when you click on the page number and when you click on the pre-flight panel, you get a triangle with an exclamation point. Let me just make this a little larger so you can see that. It's right here. And if you notice, that's my flow panel. That's the wrong thing. I didn't want to grab that. But if you notice it's an empty image box back behind there. And that happens quite a bit when you're creating collage pages, or maybe you had another flow panel on here and you expanded it or did something with it and it was just kind of left behind. So you want to go ahead and delete it. And so I'm going to refresh, and that error went away. So now I'm going to look at a proof of these 2 pages. Let me go ahead and make this regular size. Would I like to save my changes? Yes. And you have to look at a PDF proof either here or in the page ladder before you can actually submit the pages. So this is how the page is going to print. And sometimes it's easier to see some mistakes this way. This is a good time to count. Make sure you have all of your kids with the correct names. Make sure they have a name. Sometimes whenever we upload the pictures, the photographer didn't have a name for that student, so they may just put first and last there. So just go down through here, make sure all your kids are named correctly. There aren't any duplicates, and then you can close it. Now, if you found a duplicate, you would actually need to go back and reset the page and then go in and tell which photo not to use and then reflow the page. So we're done with that page. Now I can mark it complete here, or I could do that in the page ladder. But probably the quickest thing would be go down through here this way and just do your pre-flight on each page, and that way and complete them here. And then when you go to your page ladder, you don't have to go through that complete status there. So let's go to the next page. Now this page, I'm going to run my spell check. There's no spelling suggestions. Now if you'll notice, it's hard to see the kids' names here. Let's back up a little bit here though. But I do see on page 29, I have an error. I have the 1 here. An image element remains unedited. Well, if you click on it, it highlights it. And it looks like it's another one of those text or image boxes back behind there. So I'm going to click on that again. And I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. Refresh. And that's gone away now. But before I look at my proof, or once you look at the proof, you're going to notice that you can't see the names very well. So you really need to take care of that before it gets to us, so that it doesn't delay your book. So you can do 2 things here. You can either go to your Art tab and get a box, and you could resize it to fit the names. You could change it to white, and then under the effects you could change the transparency. And I know you can't see the names very well right now, but with that box selected, you could go to your layers palette and move that to the back, and then that helps the names to show up. And you'd also want to maybe either change her name to white, and you could also see if white would work for these names. To change the names to white, you would have to click on the flow panel, go up to expand, and you want to expand the very last option because you can't go back in and reflow on any of those pages. So I'm just going to select all my text boxes, and I'm going to go up here and change my font to white. And that helps a little bit. You could even bold it if you wanted to. So I'm going to go back to my Preflight. I'm going to save first. Go back to my Preflight, and I don't see any errors here. So we're good on these 2 pages. I'm going to go to the next 2. Now here I wanted to bring to your attention that this student life, this is going to get trimmed off the very top of it. So the red line is the bleed line. Anything past that's going to be in the trim, and it will get trimmed off. And the blue line is our safe area. So ideally, when you upload an image and the text is close to the edge, you want to make sure that you place it far enough away from the trim line so that it doesn't get trimmed off. And if you have your parents designing maybe a senior page, or your kids are designing some kind of ad page, you always want to make sure that if there's text close to the edge, that you place it away from that trim line so that it doesn't get trimmed. So since this was placed as a background, I'm going to click Change Background. I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to go over here to my images. I'm going to find it in the folders. And I'm just going to click and drag it over there, and I'm going to scale it out to fill the page pretty well. And then if I wanted to make an actual color to bleed in the background, I'm going to go to Change Background, and I'm going to choose a different color. So let's just put kind of a cream color back there, or yellow. So now everything's within the safe area, and it's not going to get trimmed. Here on this page, let's get rid of this little template or palette. Okay, on page 31, I have 3 different errors. So you can kind of see the little triangles here, but I'm going to click on each one so that you can see what the problem is. So if you notice here down at the bottom, there's an empty image box back behind there. And what happens is, a lot of times on collage pages, whenever you drag an image over to go into the box, it's maybe not a high enough resolution, so it just kind of lands on top of the box. But the box behind it has a border on it, so you think it's okay. But the program will pick that up thinking that it's an empty image box. So what you'll need to do is go in and delete it. And then you'd have to select your image. And if you want to resize it a little bit, if it lets you, you can. Or you can just go in and add your border to the picture. Okay, the next error here. Click that. Oh, this is telling me that there's an empty text box in the background. So I clicked on my little message and it highlighted it. So now I'm going to delete it. And it was back behind this tiger image. So the program didn't like that. So now let's go to this one. And it's the same thing. There's that empty image box back behind there. So I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to have to add my border to my picture. Okay, and now I'm going to refresh here. And I don't have any errors. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I don't really have a spell check to run because this text is in the image, so it won't pick up that if there was something misspelled in the image. So if you did find an error, you would need to go back and go correct the image and then upload it again and put it on the page again. So I'm going to check on the PDF proof. I didn't change anything, but we'll click yes. So the dotted line is our approximate trim line. And I think those pages are good. I also want to let you know if the the page numbers are in the wrong corner, we don't correct those. We leave them where they are. So you may want to go through your book as a last step and move your page number to the correct side. Sometimes when you go in and move individual pages or use templates from other pages, sometimes it puts that page number in the wrong corner. So you'll want to be sure to go ahead and check that out. Okay, so now I'm going to pretend I went through all my pages. I'm going to go back to the page ladder, and I want to complete these. So to complete several at a time or submit several at a time, you can click these little boxes. Now, if I was going to do the whole book, I could go here to check all, and under actions, I could choose complete. And it's going to go ahead and complete my 4 pages. Now, before I submit these pages, if I needed to save a proof for maybe you have an administrative person that's going to go through the book and give it a final QA, maybe you have to have approval on the book, you can go here in the page ladder under print and print all, and it'll save a PDF of the whole book. It's a low-res PDF, and you can save that to your computer or you could print it out and hand it to whoever needs to look at it or give it a final approval. So I've done all that. So now I'm going to submit these pages. So I'm going to click on my little boxes here. And you can submit all your pages all at once, or you can do a few at a time. If you do a few at a time, we don't print any of the pages. We will wait until the whole book is submitted before we put it into production. Now, if I saw a mistake here, once I got it completed, if I saw a mistake on the page, I'd have to click return, and then that's going to open that page back up, and then you can go in and do your correction and go through the complete and submit process again. So I'm going to submit 26 through 31. Okay. And this is a message that comes up quite frequently. You might have some more work to do before you can submit the following pages. It's not necessarily saying you have anything you need to take care of. It's just that you need to look at the PDF proof before you can submit the pages. So back there where I was showing you in the pre-flight panel, you can look at the pages there, look at the proofs there. You can do it there, or you can do it here, and you can click on each individual page, that little printer icon, and it brings one page up at a time. And then you can view it, make sure it's okay, and just close it. I'll do the same with this one. Looks fine. So then you can go ahead and it's going to let you submit the pages. There is another way you can view your book. You can't save it this way, but you can view your book under Showcase, Virtual Book. And this is kind of like you're just turning the pages and looking through your book. You can go to a page. Let's see. I want to go to page 26. Okay, so there's the 2 pages we previewed. Now you want to keep in mind here that also the bleed area is still on here. This is the view before it's been trimmed. So you want to keep in mind that just a little bit of these pages, they'll be a little bit trimmed off the outside. So maybe if you had images that were close to the edge and you'd want to keep in mind, like, do I have any heads up in that area where they'll get trimmed off? You don't want it to be down on their foreheads or cut too much of the picture off. So that's a nice way to go through the book too, if you'd like. So basically, once you get all your pages submitted, you're not going to have any buttons or any choices out here to the side, like the complete or submit. The little borders around the pages are all going to turn black, and that means your pages are all submitted. Once you've submitted your pages, you're going to get an email, and we will receive an email telling us that all the pages have been submitted, and then we're going to send you an email that's going to have all of the specifications of your book, like how many pages, how many copies, your delivery date, and that sort of thing. So you'll want to review that and make sure that all that information is correct. Now, if you see a mistake in your book or you see a mistake in all the production specifications, you want to let us know right away, because once that book gets into production, there may be a charge if it's out, maybe it's getting ready to have the cover put on. There may be a charge to stop the book and put the, make your corrections, because we'd have to start all over again. So you really want to check it well before you send it in, and you want to make sure everything's good before we put it into production. And you should receive an invoice then in about 10 days. I see I have one question here. How did you get to the pre-flight palette? Okay, you'll get to your pre-flight by going to the page in the page designer. And it's over here in the bottom right-hand corner, right here. And it's the top button. The first one is comments, and the pre-flight is the little triangle with the exclamation point. Do we have any other questions? Okay, it doesn't look like I have any more questions. Let's see, if you flow pages, then you need to do more work on them. Okay, so if you're flowed a class page and you need to go in and correct it, you'll have to go in and reset the class and then make your correction in the image library and then flow it again. Now, if you've expanded the flow, you'll need to actually start from scratch, basically not change the whole template, but you'll need to replace that flow panel that's on there. So you may need to click and drag a new one over.